Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
Celebrating our 20th year together, this is the National Football League on NBC. Today, it's the AFC Championship. From the Orange Bowl in Miami, the Pittsburgh Steelers meet the Miami Dolphins.
From the men who brought you basically a sports show, if your football fix wasn't met on Thursday night, it's time for an additional slice. This is basically a football show right now. Let's go!
Let's knock them on their backs, butt them in the mouth, knock their ass in the dirt. That's what we got to do.
Get in here. I got one thing to say. This is when the big dogs come out. Okay? You can't roll with the big dogs. Stay on the board. Hey, baby, we're going to be here all day, baby. I like this kind of party. I like this kind of party, baby.
His method is not Grand Prix, but Demolition Derby.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to basically a football show. Championship Weekend edition. I'm Zach, along with me is Greg, and Greg, that sucked.
It sure did. Okay, we'll see you next week, folks.
Yep. Follow us on all of our platforms, basically Podcast Network, and we couldn't do that. We're professionals. We're going to work through this.
It would be tempting to do that. It really would, but yeah. I thought of this, and I want to run this past you.
Sure.
In the past week, I think that between the two of us, we've experienced pretty much every kind of high and low you can experience in football.
Yeah.
I got the national championship, which is about as high as you can go, right?
Uh-huh.
Then you got your team winning a game that no one thought they were going to win, which my team did too.
Yeah.
And we had that. And then we got into the weekend, and then we had, between the two of us, the two most excruciating ways to lose a football game that you can possibly have. The absolute blowout and the one that just you handed right back to them, and they won in such incredible fashion that you're sitting here today going, I still can't believe it. Mm-hmm. So if there's that, I guess. We really ran the whole gamut.
It's it's the two worst ways you could win a football. It's not battling it out till the end and one team just happened to come out on top. It's you choked away a game and you were never in a game. So let's let the bloodletting commence, I guess. We'll start with you just because it was early, the first game. Wow. So the Packers get the ball first, and you're driving down, looks great, throw an interception to Richard Sherman in the end zone. And first you're thinking, oh no, this is going to be bad. Then the Seahawks start getting the football, and they keep doing the same thing, but worse. Just giving the ball back to the Packers. They gave the ball to the Packers, both at the 30-yard line twice?
Yeah, the Packers, I don't think, started a drive on their side of the 50 till it was well into the game. They had great field position. It just, yeah.
Yeah, and they get those first two drives well within, the red zone. The first one, they get down to was this the first or the second drive, where they got down to the one, ball gets called back, so they mark them down at the one, then they run it on third down, and they get to the half-yard line. So it's fourth and half a yard. You're in your opponent's building. You have a chance to put a dagger in them early, and you kick a field goal.
Of the many, many mistakes that Mike McCarthy, who going forward will be known as Mike McSchottenheimer, of the many mistakes he made in that game, that was the first huge one. Mm-hmm. You had to go for it there because, like you said, you're in Seattle. You're in one of the toughest places in all of football to play, and you've got a chance to just kick them right in the gut right out of the gate, and you don't do it. That was a huge victory for the Seahawks to come away from that with only 3 points given up. Unbelievable.
The second drive, off another interception, the Packers get another field goal. Only 6 plays, 22 yards on the drive. 2 opportunities in close, and this thing could be 14-0, and the Packers could be running away with it, but it's 6-0, and it's a one-score football game. Later in the first, as time's expiring, Aaron Rodgers throws his only touchdown pass of the day, 13 yards to Randall Cobb, and it's 13-0 at the end of the first quarter. When it should have been 21-0, this game should have been way over way quickly, but the Packers unable to convert. They only get a field goal in the second quarter, 16-0 going into halftime, and then whatever offense the Packers had in the first half didn't show up in the second half. The Seahawks get back into it. Looks like they're going to settle for a field goal.
Oh, God.
Fake field goal as the punter throws a 19-yard touchdown pass to a lineman, and the Seahawks get right back in this thing at 16-7.
And he couldn't have been more wide open if he'd been standing in the parking lot. I mean, there was no one near him. But to go back to the first half for a second, I will give McCarthy the benefit of the doubt because I think on that second drive they could have gotten 7, but they didn't. Mm-hmm. I'm going to allow the second field goal, but by all rights, it should have been 17-0 coming out of that first quarter. There should have been at least 2 touchdowns there. And the thing that kills me the most, I think that drives me the nuttiest about this game, is how superbly the Packers defense played, because I thought that was their biggest weak spot going into this game, and they were incredible. I mean, Clay Matthews got a sack where he brought Russell Wilson down. It looked like 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but that's another one. And you know, we're not going to let the defense off the hook in this. They had the Seahawks at a 1st and 31, and they let them convert.
1st and 31, and then it ended up being like 3rd and 19. And they got the pass off.
Right. And
it ended up being like a 29-yard pass.
And I was kind of half on the boards and watching the game, and I almost posted, is anybody thinking 4th and 26 against Philadelphia back years ago? But I didn't because I didn't want to jinx it. Mm-hmm. And it turns out it didn't matter. I would have looked like a prophetic genius had I put it up there, but I didn't. Go ahead and finish your wrap-up, and then I'll go on my rant.
Well, the Packers get another field goal in the 4th, and then in a span of a minute and 14 seconds, the Seahawks managed to score 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson with a 1-yard run. Then the onside kick that Dave Bostic, man.
Wow.
Just right through his hands, off his face mask. And he even admitted after the game he shouldn't have jumped up to get that. He was supposed to block for Jordy Nelson, who was wide open right behind him.
Right behind him.
And Jordy Nelson, probably more of a sure hands guy than Bostic is, but it is what it is. The Seahawks recover. And then, just another reason to hate the Seahawks, Marshawn Lynch runs in, does his crotch grab while he stops short of the end zone. At that point, it's 19-20. The Seahawks want to go up by 3, so they go for a 2-point conversion. The Packers defend it superbly. They get Wilson running around scrambling. He has no idea what he's doing. He just hurls it up to the far side of the end zone, just blindly throws it, and somehow Luke Wilson ends up with the ball, walks into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. That was one of the more stunning defensive lapses by the Packers.
And while we're talking about that play for a second, of course I had to go out this morning and read all the articles and relive this nightmare, but one of the things that drove me nuts, and I don't know why I read his column because he's the biggest shill in NFL history. He's not really a good writer, and he doesn't have a lot to say, but I read Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback article today. Uh-huh. And they made it sound like that Russell Wilson and Luke Wilson had planned that out. Like that play went exactly as it was supposed to. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. Wilson threw...
No, that's pure dumb luck.
That was pure dumb luck. He threw a rainbow up in the air, hoping that it would just drop to the ground or whatever. I don't know what he was doing. Wilson just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, but there was no planning that went into that. And that's what drives me nuts about this, is that they make it sound like Russell Wilson did something superior again, when in fact that play was just blind luck.
If they didn't get that blind luck, it would have been 21-20 or 2019. All the Packers would have to do is go down and get a field goal. They go down and get a field goal anyway. Again, some questionable time management there at the end. They could have probably gone for a touchdown, but didn't. They were cutting them up, and then all of a sudden they started passing short and running the ball, and it was insane. But the Packers hold on. They get a field goal. They go to overtime. And while you were thinking about the 4th and 26, as soon as we got to overtime, all I could think of was we're going to get the ball and we're going to score.
I thought of that too.
The Matt Hasselbeck play back at Lambeau all those years ago. And the Seahawks did indeed win the touchdown or win the coin toss. And according to Russell Wilson on the sidelines, he said he was going to score. Russell Wilson, he had thrown the ball to Jermaine Kearse only 4 times in the first half. All 4 of them ended up being interceptions. It wasn't the case in overtime. Big first pass, I forget to who, but then just a rainbow of a pass to 35 yards. Jermaine Kearse perfectly placed over the shoulder in the end zone. And the Seattle Seahawks defend their NFC title. They will get a chance to defend their Super Bowl title with a 28-22 overtime victory over the Packers in Seattle.
First off, props to the Seahawks, because that was just, I mean, I hate to say it, but my God, what an amazing comeback. Okay, about this game, it's on Mike McCarthy first and foremost because they had the better team beat the entirety of that game until the fourth quarter. He got way too conservative, maybe even by halftime.
I forget what the exact play was. I think it was a fourth down. Like it was 6 minutes left, and or it was like 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 6, and they just ran it up the middle.
Yeah,
and instead of like trying to go for a first down and burning the clock and ending the thing.
Here is where that game turned in Seattle's favor and where it was over from that point forward. Right after the fourth interception, when Morgan Burnett got that interception. And you know he slid, he fell down. Smart move and all that. You don't want to lose the ball. You just want to run out the clock. Okay, Seattle knows you're just going to run the ball. They know it.
Well, was it really that smart for him to just stop?
Well, I don't know if it was.
That's another thing.
I don't know if it was or not, but the
he
fact
looked like he had plenty of field in front of him to at least burn off some more seconds, get some yards.
But whatever, they got the interception. That should have been it. That really should have been it. Mm-hmm. And they run the Eddie Lacy straight into the teeth of the best defense in the NFL 3 straight times.
That's right. That's what it was.
Right. And you've got arguably the best quarterback in the game. He has shown that he can get the job done against the Seattle defense, especially they had that play with the tight end over the middle. They had that all day long. Mm-hmm. Why are you not going for first downs? It just he all of a sudden the Packers quit playing to win and started playing not to lose, and that's when you lose. I've watched it. I watched Marty Schottenheimer do it with the Browns. I watched him do it with the Chiefs. I watched him do it with the Chargers. You would think that teams would learn, but Mike McCarthy, this one's on him. It's not on Bostic. Yeah, he should have let Jordy Nelson go for that, but it should have never gotten to that point. That's my thing. So I know a lot of people want to blame Bostic for that. I don't, because he should have never been there in the first place. And just for them to go as conservative as they did after the way they had played, your defense put in, I think, its best effort of the season at that point. It was a choke job, the most spectacular choke I've ever seen in all my years of watching NFL football, and there was absolutely no excuse for it.
Well, here's the Packers in the fourth quarter. They started at their own 25, and they get down to the Seattle 30 for a field goal. Okay, good. Then they get the ball back with 6:53 left in the game. Starks up the middle for 1 yard. Starks up the middle for 5 yards. And then an incomplete pass over the middle. 3 and out, got a punt again. First Seattle play, they throw the interception. So they get the ball back with 5:04 left in the game. Eddie Lacy, minus 4 yards. Eddie Lacy, minus 2 yards. Eddie Lacy, 2 yards. All these plays out of the shotgun. So another 3 and out. They took all of 1 minute and 12 seconds off the clock, giving the Seattle the ball back at 3:52. They score the touchdown. They get the onside kick. They score the touchdown. And then it was pretty much, that was it.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I really thought it was done when Seattle got to 14, when it got to be, 1914?
Yeah.
I knew then that you could just tell the momentum had shifted so far in Seattle's favor, and it's on Mike McCarthy first and foremost. I mean, that was just some bad. He got out coached. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. And just you've got great receivers. You've got guys that have been making catches. The Seattle secondary wasn't what it usually is yesterday, and they know you're going to run when you're trying to burn the clock. So why not try a couple of passes to see if you can't trick them? I mean, geez, you get the tight end open over the middle one time. After that fourth interception, that's probably the ball game. One first down probably does it. Nope. I was just astonished. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. Rodgers finished 19 of 34, 178, a touchdown and 2 INTs. He was okay. He wasn't his normal self. Even people kept saying all day, well, he looked better on that calf than he has even last week. Wilson finished 14 of 29, 209, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and 5 sacks. Teams are now 2 and 42 in the postseason in the Super Bowl era when they throw 4 interceptions. The only other team to win such a game was the Bills, who beat the Jets 31-27 in 1981, despite 4 interceptions from Joe Ferguson.
Wow, Joe Ferguson, that's going back a ways.
Yep.
Credit to the Seahawks, because a lot of teams would have just quit. They didn't. I honestly, if I'm the Packers front office, I'm taking a hard, long look at Mike McCarthy after the season, because that just happens too much with this team. To waste that effort yesterday the way he did is just a shame. And Rodgers said it best. We gave it to him. As simple as that. There's no other way to put it.
And then the last note that really can kind of put the nail on this thing. Packers' third down efficiency, 3 for 14 in the game.
Yeah.
On third down. They convert 2 of those, like the ones late in the fourth quarter. You burn off another 2 minutes of clock, that thing's over. I mean, even though the Packers weren't that effective in the second half, if they just get 1 or 2 more third downs, the game's over.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not worrying about it.
Right.
But they played conservative. They punted it away. They didn't go for they weren't chasing the points, as people said early on in the game. And I think that's really where they lost it. If they're up 21-0, Seattle's not coming back.
No,
it's as simple as that. If they're 21 up after the first, the way the defense was playing and the way Seattle looked, there's no way.
That's the thing, is that it was a victory for Seattle, I think, because both the field goals in the first quarter came off of turnovers.
Right, exactly.
And if you can turn the ball over in your own end like that and only give up 3 points, that's a huge victory for your defense. I don't care what anybody says. And the one that really is going to just haunt everybody is that when on the half-yard line, you got a fullback who you can sneak and get a half-yard most of the time. You got a big bruising running back, and you don't go for it.
Yeah, you're telling me that they couldn't shove John Kuhn up the middle for a half yard?
Exactly. There was just so many ways that they could have done that, but when you play not to lose, usually you end up losing, and that's what they did in the second half. And I can't figure out why they did it. It's inexplicable, some of the calls he made, especially after that fourth interception, why you're not trying harder to get that first down. That's so important. And then when you are down, when they finally do take the lead, you've got, again, arguably the best quarterback in football. Why not take a shot or two at the end zone? Mm-hmm. You know, Jordy Nelson's, 6'4"? I mean, he's a tall. I mean, why not take a shot? I don't know. It's just it was maddening, and it was just brutal to sit through, believe me.
Yeah, well, Seattle and their fans and their team and their swagger and all that garbage, they get to go back to the Super Bowl in Glendale, Arizona in 2 weeks. In the second half of our massacre doubleheader, this is exactly what I was afraid was going to happen. This game was never a contest. The Patriots simply outclassed the Colts in every aspect of this football game. 14-0 Pats after the first, running it down their throats with LeGarrette Blount of all people again, and James Devlin, some guy out of Providence.
Wait, a guy from Providence is playing in the NFL?
Yes.
Wow.
14-0 after the first. Colts got back into it for a second with their only touchdown of the day. Zerlin Tipton with a 1-yard run. 14-7, and after that, it was never there. 17-7 at halftime. Pats open up the third quarter with a pass to the freaking tackle for a touchdown, Nate Solder. Then finally, Gronkowski finally gets his. LeGarrette Blount with another 2 touchdowns late in the game, and it ends up being a 45-7 bloodletting of the Indianapolis Colts, similar to every game they've played against the Patriots in the Andrew Luck era. This team fooled a lot of people by winning those first 2 games, and this is a team that they're not good enough yet. They don't. Andrew Luck is obviously a generational talent, but he doesn't have guys that he can count on to catch the ball, because there were plenty of times early on in the game where the Colts could have stayed with this thing, but just dropped passes. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't get anything going on the ground after having a semi-decent run game against Cincinnati and Denver. They couldn't tackle anything. LeGarrette Blount just bowling over guys like they're not even there. And terrible pass coverage, too. They were just backing up, giving Tom Brady the middle of the field, which he would gladly take all the time. And, they didn't deserve to be on the same field as the Patriots today, or yesterday, I should say, and it showed in the final score.
I think that this Colts team, we talked about it last week, and we've talked about it kind of throughout the season. You see flashes of what they can become with the right improvements, and I really do think that there are 2 key elements for this team to make the next step, and that's to get a little stronger on the front, on the defensive side of the ball, and you've got to come up with at least a semblance of a running game. I think that could make just a huge difference. I don't think they're 8 or 9 players away. I think they're 3 or 4 players away from being a legitimate contender, because we've seen them do it for 2 years now. When their guys play, I guess we're going to have to say it's above their abilities, other than Luck and Hilton and a couple of the others. But for the most part, when the defense plays above its ability, they play great football. But the problem is that, like in any professional sport, consistency is what makes greatness, and they're just not consistent. And I think you've got to get guys that can consistently play at that level. Easier said than done, I'm sure, but I don't think they're that far away. I think a good draft, and that's going to put them up another notch, is my feeling on it. But yeah, they were. Again, I honestly think I would have rather sat through what you went through yesterday than have to go through what I went through yesterday.
Right. Well, because like I told you before we started recording, it's not like I had some hope that maybe they were able to string together, but once it was evident that like you could tell early on that this thing just wasn't going to work for them, and so I kind of knew, and this is what I was afraid was going to happen in the first place. This is why I wasn't as confident of them beating them. I just said, no, they're not as good as people have made them out to be with these couple wins. And I mean, the Patriots have blown them out every single time they've played them. Like I said, in the Andrew Luck era so far, 0-4. They've scored 40 points every time, and pick a running back that they pick off the scrap heap, and they dominate them. Jonas Gray with 4 touchdowns earlier this year. LeGarrette Blount had 4 touchdowns for them last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that his second run with these guys, and he's done the same thing twice now?
Right, and the thing was, he started off the year with the freaking Steelers. So he falls upward to the New England Patriots, and he did what he does: 30 carries, 148 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's the game. And then you add in Tom Brady's 226 and 3 touchdowns, and it was just it was a great performance by the Patriots and a terrible performance by the Colts, and you end up with a blowout.
Do you think that the Colts are as fooled by, or the Colts front office is as fooled by the team as we get sometimes? Do you think
Yeah. I really believe that, yeah. Because they haven't – some of these things were problems 2 years ago, and they haven't done a whole lot to fix them. I mean, you look at their playoff performances. In the 3 years that they've made the playoffs now, the first year, they lost in the first round. Then last year, you get – they were down, 35 points or something?
Right,
to the Chiefs,
Kansas City, yeah.
Before they had the miraculous comeback. Then this year you play Cincinnati, perennial underachiever. You played the Denver Broncos with a legless Peyton Manning. And so you get a little fooled. They beat the Broncos. Yeah, but they didn't – like I said, I felt like the Broncos lost that game last week more than the Colts won it. And then they go into New England, and it's just – you see a well-oiled machine of a football team, and you get dominated. Simple as that.
I fell for it again. I thought that they, beating Denver, I thought, this is the Colts team I've seen put it together and play great football like they did last year against, and I mean, they beat San Francisco last year, they beat Seattle last year, and Denver last year in the regular season. But there's clearly some issues with this team that need to be addressed.
Here's a stat that the ESPN put up. Since Luck has been in the NFL, when he accounts for over 80% of his team's total yards, the Colts are 13-12. When he accounts for less than 80%, the Colts are 23-5. That right there should be the only – I should have to walk into the Colts front office, go to Ryan Grigson, write that stat on a piece of paper, and that's it. And just put it down on the table and walk out. And that should tell you exactly what this team needs to do. Anyway, enough about my sad Colts.
As much as we don't want to watch it, there is some interesting things in this upcoming Super Bowl. I mean, does
2 number 1 seeds.
Right. Does Brady get his 4th ring? Do the Seahawks become the first team to repeat since the Patriots? They're playing the Patriots to do it, so there's going to be all that.
I mean, I keep saying that I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, we'll both be watching
that's stupid for any American football fan.
Right.
I won't be happy with whoever wins. But I'm also resigned to the fact that I won't be happy with whoever wins, and somebody has to, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess
not going to tie.
No, I guess when it comes down to it, what would you rather see? What's the lesser of two evils?
Now that I know that this is probably the end of the road for Peyton Manning, there's not much else he could do to change his legacy or get better than Tom Brady or any of that. I might as well just give another one to Brady.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Because the attitude of the Seahawks. And in this newfound fandom that Seattle has of this football team just bothers me to no end.
I tell you what I'm tired of with the Seahawks is the nobody believes in us nonsense. You're the defending Super Bowl champions. You can't play that card anymore. And Russell Wilson, my God, I mean, can he cure cancer just by looking at you? Is that how great he is?
Well, did you see all the stories of, oh, my God, he cried after the game?
Yeah, sure he did.
Great. So he's a big wimp. Football game made you cry. You're a Super Bowl champion. Stop it.
Yeah, really.
Stop it.
This Seattle defense, I will give them credit. They're one of the best defenses I've ever seen. They're amazing.
That's going to be the big battle is the Seahawks defense versus Tom Brady and the Patriots offense. In a lot of those matchups, they end up neutralizing each other, and then it becomes more about the opposite side, where it'd be can Seattle, because the Patriots defense is pretty good in its own right. Can Seattle muster enough offense against the Patriots? No matter how good the Seahawks defense is, Tom Brady's still going to get his.
Yeah.
Because I think the last time they played was in 2012 in Seattle, and I think the Seahawks won 24-23. I think they showed that during the game. Do you think there's any chance of a similar result to last year with the Seahawks just winning in a rout?
I do, yeah. I do. I hope not, but I do. I just because I think we thought the same thing about the Broncos last year. They looked invincible on offense until they faced the Seattle defense. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa. It could be a good one. It could be a blowout. And it really could be a blowout in a bunch of different directions. I don't think Seattle's quite as dominant this year as they were last year, so that helps. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the Patriots are going to have the comedy of errors to start the game that the poor Broncos did last year, but who knows? We'll know in 2 weeks. So anyway, I guess, I don't know. I guess that's it for the bloodletting, huh?
Yeah. Both of our teams go out in combustible fashion.
You know, the thing that really, I think, hit me the hardest was that I went into the game yesterday thinking, I don't really think they're going to win. And the worst thing that can happen when you go into a game expecting to lose is that you get hope. And then you start thinking, you know what? We might have this. And all of a sudden I'm going, wow, what kind of week as a football fan would this be for me? My college team wins the national championship. My pro team's going to the Super Bowl. That's like the perfect fan week in football. And I think I just got too greedy. I flew too close to the sun, as Mike likes to say.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the Packers should have won that football game.
Yes, they should have. That's the hardest part about it. It's that they had it. They had them beat. They were dominating them, for God's sakes.
That's the worst part, is that you know they should have won.
Yep.
You know they should have won. But they didn't.
And then to lose and just the most spectacular collapse I've ever seen. Unbelievable.
R.I.P. Packers, R.I.P. Colts. So we move on. The only things left between us and the end of football season, the 2015 NFL Pro Bowl and Super Bowl 49 in Glendale, Arizona. So we're almost done here.
Yeah. Another season of basically a football show almost in the books.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's been fun as always. But I guess we'll sign off for this week. Follow us on all of our platforms. Follow the Basically a Podcast Network. We'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the Pro Bowl.